So, hi everybody. Today we are in season three, episode eight, and our topic is going to be relationships. So, my name is Maeve Langford. I am your transformational coach based here in Cork, in Ireland. And I'm joined as always by the wonderful Gary Benoit, all the way from Calgary, Alberta. Gary works in the world as a speaker and an author. He's licensed in the financial services industry and he supports clients and community to live a better life or live their lives better. So we're here today in this month of February, which is often seen as the month of love. And we're taking our theme relationships from that. But of course, we're not just talking about romantic love, but how we show up in I suppose, in communication and in relationship with the people in our lives. And this can be including ourselves, right, in our relationship with ourselves. So for you listening today, really inviting you to maybe choose one relationship to think about as we're talking through some ideas and prompts and perspectives in the call today to just consider where might this be alive in
hmm
me in the
hmm
context of a particular relationship.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think relationship is really when you think about day-to-day life, like we are in a relationship with many, many people every day.
Yeah.
Some are just we're just touching based upon our, if it's a grocery store person we're buying our groceries from, or people we interact with every day. And then there's other people that are more significant impact in our lives, right? Which is like those that we consider friends or those that we consider, colleagues at work. You know, most of our work days are surrounded by colleagues at work, right? And so it's that. And plus, then you're also your relationships when you consider being at home, right? So maybe it's your parents, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brothers, right? Your siblings. Maybe it's your partner, your spouse, your partner, someone else who's more significant in your life. Maybe you're not with a partner, but you have your own kids, that kind of stuff. So there's like we really, when you think about it, we're very social creatures, human
Yes.
beings, right? We're very social. And so we're in relationship all the time.
Yeah.
And I, throughout my years of working, though I did 25 years in the police department, I worked in very many different groups of people. I had lots of different squads, lots of different people come through, and I know so many people along the way. Like just there's a tons of people, hundreds of people along the way that I met with. And we were talking about this as we were coming in, and we're preparing for this show, and we're kind of thinking about relationship. But like a lot of those friendships that I had or relationships that I had, they've really just sort of like faded away. And
Mm.
I'm retired now a couple of years from the police service, 2.5 years almost. And that time away has really, that separation, right? Because like when we're in that, they're important to us, right? We're there, it's important. And now
Yeah.
that I'm not there, it's a little bit different, right? Because at that time has kind of separated us because I'm no longer day to day in their circle, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really cool to understand that we're going to have moments in relationship where things are going to transition. We're going to have new people coming in. We're going to have people that are sort of like fading away, and all that stuff is natural. And
Mm.
sometimes we get a little bit attached, maybe to especially the ones that fade away, or we're you know not sure where that disconnection sort of happened, but it just might be a natural progression in our lives,
Mm.
right? And I think relationship really is important to understand how that looks. And sometimes we have the removed friends from our circle, depending on what
Mm-hmm.
they're like. Sometimes we have to be cautious about who we're bringing into our circle, right? And there's a saying that I truly believe that you are really the reflection of the five people you hang out with the most. I think that's a really true statement. I think if you look around at your
Yeah.
five closest people, um, they are a reflection of who you are, essentially, right? And
Yeah.
so you are a reflection of them. So I think it's really important to understand that this relationship is not just about one-on-one. It's a very broad perspective when you consider who it encompasses and what we do every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose, a lot of the time, and again, this is partly why I'm kind of saying, as you're listening today, to maybe just pick one relationship to consider, right? I've just finished a vision workshop recently, and one of the things we do in the vision workshop is we kind of do an assessment of the different areas of our lives. So our health, our relationships, our work, or how we share our talents in the world and our time and money freedom. And in the context of relationships, I say to people, maybe it's your relationship with yourself, it could be a significant other, a colleague, or whatever. But I ask people to score. literally like to give themselves a number between 1 and 5, where 1 is there's a lot of discontent here, and 5 is there's, it's pretty optimal, and I'm really happy with this relationship. And the reason I ask people to do that, we talked last episode about drift, right? So if we're not paying attention to what's happening in our relationships, that drift kind of kicks in, and suddenly we realize that actually I'm not very happy here, but it's maybe taken several years to get to that stage, right? Or even several decades. So it's just by doing that assessment, it kind of brings us, face to face with what some of the stark
Mm,
realities are.
hmm
So for everybody listening today, what I'd encourage you to do is to take one relationship and kind of say, okay, well, what score would I give myself here?
mm,
Is it working optimally? Is there a lot of room for improvement? And from there, then you can start to think about, well, what would be ideal here? And oftentimes relationships can be in trouble, but the ideal is actually resolving the trouble, right? It's not always that we want to just exit the relationship. Oftentimes we do actually want to repair it and find ways to rebuild. But it starts with noticing where you're at, and then starting to build that vision. And how do we build the vision? Again, this is kind of a reminder in a way, but and let's bring it back to relationships. We look at the longing and the discontent, right? So if I even bring it back to myself, like if I'm feeling I'm run ragged all the time, I put myself after everybody else, that, I never have time for my own self-care, and that self-care might be as basic as going for a walk, or I don't know, like getting your teeth checked or whatever it might be for you. So and just noticing that, right? And again, we over time, several decades, sometimes we just end up where we never intended to get to this place in this kind of a relationship with ourselves, but it's not a healthy one.
hmm hmm I I think it's great. Like that idea of drift. I think we talked about drift last time. We talked about comfort zones, right? We often get very comfortable sometimes.
Within
Within
relationship.
relationship, right? When you think about,
Yeah.
right, I think we get very comfortable within, being a certain way because you kind of show up a little more authentically and you sort of get comfortable being who you are. And I'm gonna talk about like your partnership or spousal relationship, at least, from this perspective in this way, is that often we'll go through life like, called my wife and I have been married for 18 years. We've been together for 22 years total. And that's 20 years together. So there is a level of comfort, right?
Mm, mm,
But there was also a point when I was drifting. I was just not even showing up in any way, shape, or form in that relationship at all.
mm,
And it was causing her to be discontent, right? She had a lot of discontent there. And it wasn't even because I didn't, and at the time I didn't realize it. It wasn't something I was aware of in that moment. It wasn't until we had a conversation and things happened. Right? If you heard my
mm.
story, that was the big transition to for this transformational movement that I've been on. But that I just that happens quite frequently, and like I think if anybody gets into kind of a that relationship where they're married, and there was obviously something that like brought you together. And there's some people that should never be in that harmonious relationship either, right? There's that harmony that comes together. Some people just don't belong together. It's fine. And if
Mm.
that happens to be you guys or you're listening, whatever. But the idea is that if we get comfortable there, right, we have to be aware that, okay, I can be drifting in this and I can change it, right? And that
Yeah.
relationship it needs to be given and taken, and it needs to be like built together. Like it's a together movement if you're in that relationship, if someone's really that close to you, especially in
Mm.
a marriage. When it comes to
Yeah.
friends, the same idea. It has to be a give and a take.
Yeah.
It can't be a total give, give, give all the time. If you're always putting in the effort to arrange for, getting together, all that effort's all one-sided, and the other person never reaches out. The only time they ever talk to you is if you reach out first. I mean, I think there
Mm.
needs to be some evaluation around what does that look
Yeah.
like, right?
Yeah.
And is that something you're willing to still contain or maintain yourself with, and be content with, or are you not content there? That maybe that bothers you, right? And those
Yeah.
relationships, right? So I think there's like a lot of like evaluation and in relationship. I think, right?
Because especially people that we've known for very long. period of time, right?
Right.
Because you change over that time, they
Right.
change over that time,
Right.
and that same connection mightn't be there, or
Correct.
whatever brought you together in the first place might have now not be there. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? So,
You might have
and
that best friend, right? That kid, that person from high school. You always went to school with your best friend. You went to school, and it was kind of you've been 12 years together growing up, and you spent your university together. It becomes comfortable to go back to that person as that
yeah,
confidant, but maybe that person really isn't your person.
yeah.
Or maybe it is,
Yeah.
but maybe it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no right or wrong here. There's
No.
just what's working and what's not working,
Right.
and
Yeah.
what feels aligned and what doesn't feel aligned. And like even if it doesn't feel aligned, like I say, it's not that okay, it's exit. It's
Right.
like, okay, well, do I want this to be more aligned?
Right.
Or not. And again, nobody can answer that for any of us. We just have to do that self-reflection ourselves.
For sure.
And I would say the longings and the discontents are pointing you towards what alignment could look like, or what something different could look like. And then it's a question of whether that person can come on
Yeah.
board or not.
Yeah.
And I really do think, even though it can be in relationship to the other person, it really starts with ourselves. Like
Yeah.
it's not, is this working for both of us, but it's like, where am I at with this? Is this working for me? And if it isn't, then do I value the history, or the person enough to put that out there, and talk about what it could look like? Or has that moment passed and I'm just going
Right.
to let it go?
Right.
Because what I notice, Gary, and you might see as well sometimes with people where maybe they are doing all the heavy lifting in the relationship. And again, I've had this experience myself, right? You end up being kind of resentful. I
Yeah.
mean, I did
Totally.
anyway, so
Yeah.
it's not a kind of relationship of equals anymore. It's
Yeah.
like one person's carrying all the load.
Yeah.
And frankly, and sometimes you're up for that, right? But a lot of the time one isn't. And
Right.
especially again, I would say look at the patterns, right? Are you doing this in all your relationships?
Right.
With friends or colleagues, and really start to look at what might be going on there, and what would I love instead.
Right. Yeah. We once again we've this is a common theme. You're going to hear it through a lot of our shows is that internal work, right? It starts inside of here. You have to change
Yeah,
you before anything else. You need to or recognize inside of yourself
yeah,
what's important to you and what you value. And then the idea of if it is you doing all the heavy lifting and it doesn't sit with you, well, what would you love instead? Like, the idea of that replacement, we talked about it last show too, right? You have something, you replace it with something else that would be more life-giving for yourself, right? And so the idea is that we have to change our inside because ultimately we have to become content with who we are, right?
yeah.
We also should evaluate what kind of friend are we?
Well
I,
spoken.
I I think that that's also a really big piece, right? How am I being how am I showing as a friend to somebody else? Like what kind of friend am I? Am I the kind
Yeah,
of friend that would want to be a friend of someone else's?
yeah,
Right, all those thoughts because I think that's really, really important because like some often I mean and when I would look back sometimes I would be a lot of like there's a lot of finger pointing out for me like for me personally
mm,
this is what I did I had a lot of finger pointing outwards. What I realized is that it was really a lot to do with me, right? I was
yeah,
the one that needed to really pull up my socks and be better. And and
yeah,
and and that can be a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, um, because we don't necessarily always want to look at ourselves in that way and say, "Oh, maybe I am the person that's causing a lot of the grief here. Like maybe it
yeah,
is me, right?" Like no one. It's
yeah,
hard to do that, and it doesn't feel good because you have so then you have guilt and you have right all those things come up,
yeah.
right? But the bonus about understanding it was that I could change,
Yeah.
right?
I love that. And I don't know if I can show, but like when you point a finger, right?
Hmm.
They say there's three pointing back,
Correct.
right?
Right.
So I like it is painful, yes, but a great thing to do,
Yes.
right? Because of course, because we talk about, when we want to create change, we talk about who am I being and how am I showing up. So like it's the same in the current moment, like who am I being and how am I showing up in the current
Hmm.
moment as well? That
Hmm.
other person's behavior isn't happening in a vacuum. Like it's
Hmm.
happening in
Correct.
in a context of what you're both bringing to it.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a little bit as well. We were kind of saying how, within relationships, we tend to have a role, right?
Yep.
And like one of the easiest ways to see this is with our kids, but for those of you listening who have kids, but it could be the same. Like when you first met somebody and you got into a relationship, maybe you were working full time and they were part time, or vice versa. And so you started to take on certain roles in the home, or certain roles and responsibilities, maybe for organizing the socializing side of your relationship or whatever. If I bring it back to the kids, because my story relates to kids, where I have three adult sons, but when they were really young, I remember doing a parenting course because I hadn't a clue what
Hmm.
I was doing. And the
I
facilitator
don't think
was
anybody
really
does,
good.
Maeve.
No, no, exactly. They don't come
There's
with manuals,
there's
that's
no
for
manual
sure.
that tells you what to do.
Exactly. So, did what someone like me does, right? You find a mentor or a coach who can help. And I remember, like, to this day, just with such precision, the facilitator and coach saying to us, when you're doing things for your kids that they can do for themselves, you're disabling them. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I've maybe even shared it here before, but it is such a powerful message. And I really want to invite all of us to think about it, not just in the context of parent to child, but for my partner or for my colleagues or somebody on my team who was maybe junior to me and I mentored them day one, but like now they're well established and can do things. And am I still treating them like a newbie? Because when I'm doing stuff for anybody at any age in our lives, I mean, again, my mom is aging, right? But she lives independently. And like my sister and I, we have to really find that balance there between, supporting her, but not again disabling her by not letting her do the stuff that she's well able to do and actually wants to do, but we feel, as good daughters maybe we should be doing for her.
Right.
And like it is a balancing act, and in all of it there are no right and wrong answers. And you might, in my case I had several kids, and like what you might do for one might be needed and not by the other, right? There's again, it's very nuanced, and we have to think about it
Hmm.
and all the
Hmm.
rest. But I think the risk when we're doing that, we're disabling them, period.
Hmm.
But also there is that risk that we become resentful.
Right.
And I think if you're noticing that, for any of us, if you're noticing, oh, I'm not liking it. I mean, I got to a point where I got really sick of cooking dinners, right?
Hmm.
So, and I was resenting cooking the dinners. So that was a moment in time to say to my boys, you have to step up, guys, right?
Right. Yeah.
We all live here. We're all now working. Everybody, there's no
Yeah.
reason why mom or dad needs to be doing this
Right.
anymore. We're all
Right.
adults.
Right.
So I think noticing when there's a little bit of kind of like, I'm not happy here,
Bit
I'm
of
a
a
bit
rub
pissed
there. Yep.
off, there's a rub, exactly. You want to get curious
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I think that's such a great story, Maeve. Like I love that you're disabling them. I think that is just such a it really is a profound statement if you really were to analyze what she had to say there.
Yeah.
There are there once again there's a book, the Outwitting the Devil book that we just talked about in the last episode, and
Hmm.
in there as well he talked about the kids, and sometimes parents will do an experiment with their if they have that experiment where they help their kids out and they do something for them, and they right in amongst a science thing where they have the volcano or whatever they're doing, right? They create
The
with
cool
the
science
right
project.
with their kids, right? And they
Yeah.
think they're helping the kids, but sometimes the kids might, like, you don't know how they're receiving that help, right? Maybe the
Mm.
kids are thinking, well, mom and dad think that I can't do this.
Yeah.
So that's that
Very,
disabling
very
part where
cool.
it's like, well, I
Yeah.
can't do it. Mom and dad helped me last time, so I'm not going to, I can't do it. Instead
Mm.
of empowering them
Yeah.
to take the steps and do it and encouraging them and then, giving them guidance, but letting them put it together themselves, whatever that is, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's such a great statement. That's for anything. And you can apply that to every relationship that really,
Yeah.
truthfully,
Yeah. I
when you
would, I,
consider it,
I
right?
do believe that. Yeah.
Right. I think you can
100%.
really apply that. I think that's really a profound statement.
Yeah.
I think
And
I want to go back just a little bit to where you talked about evaluating that,
mhm.
that evaluation part. I think I really believe in the fact that evaluation is like the first step. I think that is kind of your first big moment to understand how we're relating to each other.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was involved in is something called ULA, and ULA has 7 areas of life where you essentially look at 7 key areas of your life and you set goals and you have vision for each of one of these areas. And 2 of the areas are family and friends. Okay, there's
Hmm.
two F's, right? Family and friends. And there is an evaluation process inside of there too. And there's like 10 questions in each under each F that you're answering as you're evaluating
Hmm.
your family and your friends. And it really breaks right down to the relationship that you're having with each of these people, and whether you're a good friend, whether, how you're showing up. And there's lots of great questions there. So, if people are interested in something like that, I can probably dig that up for them if they reach out to me. I can send them the questions and they can kind of evaluate themselves from that perspective, right?
Yeah.
Which,
Very
because maybe
good.
they don't know, maybe they're hard for them to understand, or they're not sure how that looes. But I mean, if or like I say, they can come to your vision workshop and then they can go there.
Yeah, create a vision, exactly. So again, like oftentimes, we talk about vision, right? And just having had the vision workshop this weekend, again, it was something that came up all the time, whether it's with me and my husband or me and my kids or me and my work colleagues, like is it okay for me to have a vision that it impacts somebody else, right? And yes, absolutely, it is okay. I mean, we can't make anybody change. We can't make them do something, but we can absolutely vision for something that's, an enhancement in the greater good of all, right? That this would be a better relationship, or
Right.
this, we'd have better communication, or as a team, we'd pull together better. So yes, you can envision for that. And then it's really a question of like, how am I showing up?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not about all these people, they need to suddenly be better listeners or more proactive or take more responsibility. I mean, that might be part of your vision, that that's what you would love, but then it's like, well, how am I showing up? Because going back to our other piece, like if I'm showing up and I'm doing everything for them, and believe me, there are loads of people doing everything for everybody, wishing the others would step up to the plate,
100%.
but nobody's stepping up to the plate because they think you want to be doing everything for everybody, and they
100%.
actually feel that it's going to be an issue if they try to do some of this stuff for
Right.
themselves.
Right.
So it like we build a vision, we always come back to vision all the time. Everybody listening today, you know this. Um but then it's like, am I showing up in alignment with that vision? Am I giving
Mm-hmm.
over the control? Am I, if I want other people to listen, am I listening? If I
Mm-hmm.
want other people to speak up, am I speaking up about
Mm-hmm.
what I see or believe is important here? So, like that alignment piece, I think I keep coming back to this idea at the moment that it's not about wishing and hoping and wanting. A
Mm-mm.
vision isn't about wishing and hoping and wanting that
No.
things will be different. A vision is absolutely creating clarity around that. But then it's like, how am I showing up in alignment with the vision as opposed to getting caught up in the disappointment or the frustration or the whatever it is, because
Mm-hmm.
my frequency and my energy when I'm in the disappointment is not going to get me to the new
Right.
result. It can't.
Right.
It can't.
And I think clarity is so, so important. Like you talk about the clarity, what would you love like in a relationship, and it doesn't matter if it's your friendships, if it's in work colleagues, like you can, and then you can create that clarity, that idea that you would love to have. If it's a better work environment, if it's a better office environment, where you're not having so much drama, not so much gossip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. That's what you would love, clarity, not no gossip, more empowering conversations. Well, then in that moment, you can't look to the other people to start making that change and wishing for them to make that change. In that moment, you're now having to think, okay, if I want this, I need to show up and I need not to gossip. I
Yeah,
need not to be talking about other people. I need to be asking more empowering questions about different things. I need to
exactly.
right and speaking from that place of vision with you at the center, for yourself, because you would love to see that change, right? So it's
Yeah,
not about because and that's how you start to change the outside world because
yeah.
you start to show up differently. It's no
Yeah.
different in a relationship as spousal, like a marriage. You know, my story is it falls right in here. Like this is right where I was. I had an idea that I wanted just to be a better husband and a better father, and I'd just be more present in the house because I wasn't present in the house. Well, the step wasn't to have this idea for it. I had to actually do it,
See
right?
it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to actually show up and I had to be more present and be mindful and like really work at being present. And so I think, once again, it's an internal work, right? You get the clarity, you get the idea, you know where you're kind of wanting to see improvement. And then it's not about sitting back and wishing and praying and whatever, right? The idea doesn't work. You have to literally improve
Become
yourself.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
improve
You have to
yourself to that.
become it.
And if you
Yeah.
can vision it, you have to have the belief that it's an absolute possibility,
Yeah.
right? It's an absolute done deal, right? You believe it, right? Because if you can vision it, it'll happen for you, right? You just have to take the steps. And so it's just about internal work. Again, we come back to the internal work. If we come back from the vision, internal work. If you realize the theme here that we're talking about over the last 3 years, right? Or two and a
Yep.
bit years, it's about that
Yeah.
alignment between
Then you
you
crack it. Yeah.
and your thoughts and your vision, right? And so
Yeah.
and how it's all about us, you yourself and I. How am I showing up? What kind of friend am I? All that stuff, right? I think it's so
Yeah.
key, so key.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, we've probably kind of gotten to this, but just for clarity's sake, the way sometimes, I want, whether it's my partner or my colleagues or my friends or my siblings, I want them to be different in some way. And it's kind of like, to improve the relationship, it's kind of like, well, when they do X, then I'll be whatever. So when, and so oftentimes this can be when they apologize or when they acknowledge what they
Yes.
did wrong or whatever. Um, and that it just doesn't, I mean, you can take that standpoint, yes, but if you want to create a new and different result, it's about, looking at, well, what does harmony look like? And then again, how do I need to show up? And waiting for the apology or the acknowledgement often isn't it. And, maybe I can't remember if we've done a full episode on forgiveness, and maybe we'll do that another time. But a lot of the time people think that forgiveness, happens when we get the apology or when we get, the acknowledgement that somebody did us wrong in some way. And just, as a kind of light touch, and to get people thinking about it, that forgiveness is really about us, right? And
100%.
it's about being able to set that down and not, you know, I think it was the Dalai Lama said, when we think it's about the other person and that they have to do something to allow us to feel better, we're giving away our power, and it's like we're drinking poison hoping they'll have the effect of it.
Hmm.
And no, it doesn't work that way. So it's really about, how can I set that down so that I'm not carrying the weight of it anymore, and I'm free to lead my life and live my life, and I'm not keeping myself
Yeah.
hostage to what somebody else may or may not do, even
Yeah.
if I'd like the apology or
Right.
whatever.
And that might strike a chord with you guys. We're not saying what they've done, we're not is right. You're not agreeing with whatever they've done that's
No.
created they've created in your situation. That's not what we're talking about. It's not about agreeing or like giving them that, yeah, oh, I'm just going to let that go or whatever. You don't have to necessarily like agree with whatever's happened, but you can
Yeah.
forgive them in a way that releases the energy or like attachment to that thing
Yeah.
so that you can start showing up differently. And the minute you start doing that, things will start to change. Like, you show up softer, you show up more compassionate, and you don't have to, like I say, once again, and if it's a lot of stuff there, a lot of water under that bridge you talk about, or a lot of hurt there, well, that will eventually, as you work through it for you,
Yeah. Yeah. And
it
I
will it
think the
will it will
big
start to
thing,
change, right? Like, and you have to
yeah,
be the one to take the steps for you, not for them. It's not about
yeah.
them. It's all about you.
Yeah. And in that context, it's like it's not saying that whatever hurt was caused was okay. It
Right.
like when we forgive somebody, we're not saying that was okay.
Not at all.
We're just saying, you know what? I choose to create something different for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not carrying the weight of this anymore.
Right.
And
I'm not taking it with me. It's
yeah,
not, it's not going to
yeah,
create any more energy inside of me anymore. And as
yeah.
soon as you do that release and you get that out of your system, your energy will start to change.
Things shift.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
shift.
absolutely
Yeah.
shift.
So as we come
And
towards the end here, what does what does
well,
it look
maybe
like?
just before we get into a wrap up, just to think about. the word boundaries comes up
Hmm.
again and again and again and again and again and again and again in the context of relationships.
Yes.
Again, not all relationships for all people, but it's, I often hear people say, I just need better boundaries. And in the context of relation, and it's not that I'm against boundaries in any way, but I really want to kind of maybe pose the question because oftentimes when people say I need a better boundary, they actually want a wall, right? And they don't want the other person in their life anymore. Um, so
That's
when I
fair.
was thinking, yeah, when I was thinking about this, and there's a phrase in Ireland that what is it? That good fences build good neighbors,
Hmm.
right? And there is an element of that. Like we need our own space, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes you just need to stay in your own lane a bit. But really inviting people, if I'm thinking that with somebody, I really need better boundaries with that person. A question that you can ask to yourself is like, am I wanting to stay in this relationship or am I actually wanting to disappear from it? And either is okay, but it comes back to that awareness piece. And if you really don't want the person, to be kind of an active relationship in your life anymore, just to start to disconnect. It's not about the boundary, but just to stop making the phone calls, stop setting up the meetings, stop, making the dates all the time. And just notice that if you've just been in there out of obligation and all the rest, that when you stop, they probably don't do anything and it just falls away.
Hmm.
So instead of just getting all caught up about, boundaries and walls and what you're doing, just really evaluate like what do I actually want the outcome to be here? And stop putting energy into it if you don't want it and just let it fall away.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let it fall away.
Hmm. Right on. I think that's so good. This is a really big topic when you consider the relationship because we are so social as human beings, right?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
if I can leave anybody here with something, it's just that knowing it starts with you. Just
yeah,
knowing every relationship starts with you,
yeah,
and you have the power to show up. You have the power to be the friend you want to be, and you have the ability to really change the feeling around that any relationship that you have, whether there's hurt there or not. It all comes back to how am I going to show up and
yeah.
how am I going to be? Because really, it's about improving your life and your situation. And then you'll know if you do that when friendships are no longer to be maintained,
Mm.
right? And so I think that's really key. So just know what's about you and just come back to you. Be and just know who you want to show up as. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
That would be my takeaway for today.
Yeah, and just to add to it, I'd probably say, like, really look at your relationship with yourself, right? We all know the phrase to put on your own oxygen mask first, right? In the airplane. Like, if you're not your own best friend, you can't give what you don't have. So and you can't give what you don't have an experience of,
Hmm.
right? So if if your relationship with yourself isn't optimal, and for everybody listening, I'd be hoping you'd be closer to the five in this. And if not, I would say that's where you start, right? Because when you're doing better in relation to yourself, then you'll be way better in terms of how you respond to others. And you'll also be way better in terms of what you'll accept or not accept from others, right?
Hmm.
So I would say for all of us, that's probably the place to start is that relationship with self
Right.
and build out from there.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you want to highlight coming forward? Anything that's coming up that you got something in May, right? May Vision Workshop.
We will have a vision workshop in May, and we will have a masterclass in the few weeks before that. But I'm going to
Okay.
keep that as a kind of something to just look forward to without even knowing what it's going to be
Yep.
at the moment. I do know what it's going to be, but I'm not ready to announce it.
That's good. Good. Um, yeah, for us, like I say, we would just concluded our Ignite and Inspire after this one's come out. I think it's right after that weekend pretty well.
Okay.
And so I hope that those that were in the neighborhood will be able to come and join us on that event. That have been, if you did, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate that the support, and I hopefully you left inspired and with new thoughts in your mind. as well as moving forward now, like I say, we'll keep you updated. Nothing to really say for sure, but there'll be certain things. We're looking at May as well for a potential event in Calgary. We just haven't
Great.
solidified any dates or like that. And yeah. So, anyways, guys, I really appreciate the listening. I really appreciate you guys tuning in today. We always love when we can connect with you guys. So please do that. Follow us. If you, our greatest compliment is if you actually follow us and then share it with someone else who follows us.
Yeah,
That's kind of our
absolutely.
thing. So please, hit the like, hit the share button,
Yeah.
and that would be fantastic for us. We appreciate that. And so you can get us on Spotify and anywhere else, right? So we appreciate all of that time, and have a great couple of weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks.